Hey guys, we're here at Boot Mode. Today we're talking about Flex Fuel with Boot Mode, what's involved on the software side, what's involved on the hardware side, how to get this going, and bro, yo. Yo. What are you doing? Okay, anyways, so we're talking about Boot Mode Flex Fuel.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
What is Flex Fuel? Flex Fuel allows your car to run anywhere from 0% ethanol to 100% ethanol. Why would you want to run ethanol in your car when, at the pump you have 91 octane or 93 octane? Well, alcohol adds octane to your pump gas. You can run anywhere from 0 to 100% alcohol in your tank once you have the Flex Fuel functionality in place.
Hello, how are you? And there you are, quite well.
To get that going, you need to flash one of the Flex Fuel enabled maps on your DME, and on the hardware side, you need to install one of the kits in your car. Goes into the low pressure fuel line. So some of the kits we have here, this kit you're already familiar with. This is our S58, N55, and the Gen 1 B58 kit. The two new kits we have coming is the Supra kit, Supra NZ4. This mounts actually in the back of the engine bay. And we have the Gen 2 kit, which basically fits the G80, various G20s, B48 and B58 cars. In behind here is the controller that works with the actual hardware here and the ethanol content sensor that's part of the assembly. It connects the ethanol content sensor to the CANBUS, which basically carries the message over to the DME, and then the DME does the rest. Okay, we've got our G80 here. We have the G80 Flex Fuel Kit. First thing before installing this on the car is you want to go into your trunk and disconnect the battery. You don't want to have any power in the car when you're working on fuel system components or really anything else. So next you want to go into the back seat. There are two clips holding the seat in the front of it. So in the back seat, you would basically get your hand underneath the seat bottom, pull up on it, and then pull up on it on the other side, and it'll come up. Disconnect any seat belts, and the seat will come out very quickly. Okay, so the next thing to do is to get to the fuel hat and get started with installation of this part, which is the assembly and the ethanol content sensor. So what you want to do is open the fuel hat area. There's a cover on it. Get that off to the side, and you'll see two electrical connectors. You want to disconnect them so that the pumps are powered down. Why? Because you want to start the car and drain the fuel out of the fuel line, so when you disconnect the fuel line, you don't get it spraying into your eyes, into your face, and all over your car. It'll smell for a long time after. So the best thing to do is connect the two electrical connectors, as I mentioned. The pumps are powered off. You go into the car, start it. It'll run for a bit, for about a minute, maybe even a minute and a half, and then it'll just shut down on its own because it has no fuel from the fuel pumps. At this point, you can go to the actual fuel line that's sitting, the factory one, and disconnect it. There are two security clips holding it. Push those in and unclip. At that point, you have the fuel line off, you have the electrical connectors off, and you're ready to get this in there. So the next step is take the factory fuel line. There's a gray 3/8" connector on it. Turn it 90 degrees. It'll actually spin. If you hold the fuel line with one hand and hold the connector with the other, you want to get that connector to go level with the top of the fuel hat. Once you do that, you connect that into this side of the assembly, and this fuel line goes into the spot where the original low pressure line was. So you plug that in, press it all the way down, you want to hear it click. Same thing when you're putting in the factory line into this side. You want to hear it click all the way in. So once that's done, the fuel will be coming out of the fuel hat. Instead of going directly into your factory fuel line, it'll be routed through our line, coming into the assembly, going through the sensor, and coming out of this side of the assembly into the factory line going to the motor. So this is now fully assembled. The electrical part comes next, but before you get to the electrical part, you want to make sure that there are no fuel leaks. So what you want to do is go back into the car, start it, and basically look around if there are any fuel leaks, if any of the fittings are leaking anywhere else. Let the car run for about a minute or two and inspect. You want to use a rag for any of the existing fuel that may have sprayed when you were disconnecting things. So clean that off first, check for fuel leaks. Once you're comfortable that there are none, go ahead with the electrical part of the installation. So the first thing for the electrical part of the installation is you want to take the flex fuel connector and connect it to the sensor. And the actual wire, you want to make a little incision in the fuel hat cover where the rubber grommet is and run the wire right through that. At this point, you can close the fuel hat cover. You know that you have no fuel leaks, your sensor is connected, both of these sides are sorted, so that area is set. At this point, you have the controller on the outside of the fuel hat. You can mount it anywhere on that side where you feel comfortable. You can put it on a piece of Velcro or anywhere really where it's out of sight. You want to either be underneath the seat cover or underneath the side bolster that's on the right side. That's usually the common place where people install this. The last part of the puzzle is the long harness. This basically runs along the side of the car on the right side where the door jamb is on the inside. Underneath the plastic, you tuck it in and you just run it forward all the way to the passenger footwell area. In the passenger footwell area, underneath the glove box, right on the right side, there's a plastic cover there. The first thing to do is you lift the one at the passenger side door. That's the one that has to come up first. You just pull up on it. There are tabs underneath. If you break one, you can get another tab. There is another plastic cover that's actually covering the body domain controller. It's a big name, or BDC. It's an actual computer in the car that enables communication with all the other computers. Doesn't matter, boring detail, but basically that's where you're going to be connecting this side of the harness. So there's no splicing, you don't need to cut any wires. You're basically going to connector 7. It's labeled when you look in there, Con 7. You're unplugging that, and there is a connector inside that you pull out. You put this one in, and the one you pulled out basically bridges over to this connector. That's that part of the deal. If this was a Gen 1 B58, you'll be done. On the Gen 2 cars, BMW decided to move the terminal 15, which is ignition on, to another connector. Basically, in the G80 or the Gen 2 kits, this harness will power up for ignition on from connector 3. There's a pin there, basically pin 1 is terminal 15. You will depin it and connect the red wire into it for ignition on. And that's it. Once it's connected, you basically put the covers back on, the plastic covers that you took off in the passenger footwell and on the passenger door side. You put those back in. You reinstall the seat. That may take you a little bit of time because there are seat belts, and the easiest way to do it is you get the seat belt up through the hole in the seat and then use the actual seat belt, plug it in and pull up, and keep it plugged in during that installation. It can take you, the first time you're doing it, it could take you anywhere between 5 minutes and, I don't know, an hour, depending on how much you fight those seat belts. Once the seat's back in, you can start the car and you can check your ethanol content right on the dash. You press on the cruise control buttons, you press down. The first position down will give you the ethanol content on the RPM gauge. So let's say you have 55% ethanol in your tank. That's what the sensor is reporting. to the computer, you'll see the tach show 5,500 RPM, and so on. So basically, at any time, while you're driving, while you're idling, you can press down on the cruise control button down to the first position, and it'll show you what your current ethanol content is. So that's the in-dash ethanol content check that we have as part of our custom ROM and FlexFuel on the software side. Other than that, other than just checking what your ethanol content is, the computer is actually managing the tune and making it more aggressive or less aggressive based on your ethanol content that's being reported by the FlexFuel Kit. So if you have no ethanol in your tank, you go to a pump and you fill up with straight 91 or 93, the tune, because it's custom ROM based and because it has FlexFuel functionality in it, we'll see that there's no ethanol in your tank, in your fuel line, and it'll detune down to pump gas numbers. So your boost will come down, your ignition timing will go down, your fueling will get adjusted so that you can start up and drive your car and beat on it on just pump gas. Then later on, you go to a gas station, you find an E85 gas station, or you buy ethanol from an ethanol manufacturer, you pour that into your tank, you make a blend, either an E50 blend or, you don't even need to care. At this point, you have a FlexFuel Kit, you have software on the engine computer that works in tandem with this, and basically the ethanol content that's in your fuel tank will in real time be reported to the engine computer, and it'll adjust the aggression, so your boost will go up, your ignition timing will go up, your fueling will get adjusted, fuel pressure, various parameters that make FlexFuel and tuning with it happen. So in this episode, we covered FlexFuel. We showed you how to install it on the G80, the software and the hardware. And in the next one, we're going to be showing you our new Wi-Fi adapter, the advantages of using Wi-Fi over cable, and the new app.